Well, let's take an inside look at what's happening now in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint and Evo 4G, America's first 4G phone. Talking about Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch. For all the latest NASCAR stats, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile and the Evo only from Sprint at sprint.com/speed. Top speed of the race, you see it there for the Blue Deuce. Up around 200 miles per hour. And what about Kyle Busch tonight? He has led the most laps in this race, 106. He's third right now. Sandwiched in between Tony Stewart. Stewart and Keselowski on a different pit cycle than those guys from third on back. They did not pit under caution at lap 41, and at some point here they got to be thinking about a green flag stop, Larry.
Well, yeah, Tony Stewart I think will be the first driver to hit pit road, because by my calculations he's been running about 47 to 48 laps each time he was on pit road at lap 124. So probably here in the next 2, 3, 4 laps we'll see that 14 car of Tony Stewart making a green flag stop.
Brad Keselowski 5 laps to the good in comparison to Tony Stewart when you look at their last pit stop. But it's all worked out for BK. I mean, he leads the race, which is good, so you get the bonus point situation, and he's back in the top 20 in points. So as of now, he's hanging on to a championship spot. Wally?
I just think it might take more than that one. It might. You know.
And this would be number 2 for him, which would be great.
Yeah, and he needs that. That's what I'm saying. I mean, everybody's like, well, he's in the top 20. That's great. You know, he may have a spot. You know what? I think it's going to be a lot tougher than that.
I think these guys believe it. You know, when David Reagan won last week, he said, yeah, that puts us in position, but we need 2 to be solid.
I agree with that.
And I think everybody believes that, because you've had so many first-time winners, and there's so many guys who haven't won a race. Like we've talked about Tony Stewart. He's having a great run tonight. I mean, he wins that race, boom. He's there in the top 10.
And they're all in front of Brad.
And they're all in front of Brad, and that's the deal.
We knew long green flag runs could be a part of this race tonight. One of the best yesterday in practice, Kyle, when you look at long runs, Tony Stewart. They worked hard on it. I think it's paying dividends tonight.
But we watched that practice yesterday, and Tony Stewart was, what, 28th, 29th, 30th, just making race runs. But he was the top of the 5-lap average. He was the top of the 10-lap average, and he was out there making long runs. And when he made his qualifying run, he went to 7th on the board that day.
What about it, Matt?
Well, you look at the difference just between Thursday's open practice session here at Kentucky, and then on Friday, it was like flipping a light switch. They were off their game a little bit on Thursday, but they really hit upon something, and they've just been trying to tweak on that, especially throughout the night. Team getting their helmets on, closing in on Stewart's next pit stop. But basically, he said the car a little too free. We'll see what kind of adjustments they're going to make here shortly.
And this thing has got greens for so long, and I think it's going to be important if we don't get into a fuel mileage thing, that, again, everybody's running so close. That track position is going to mean everything, which means your pit stops in and out, if this thing stays green, that extra 2 or 3 seconds you can make or lose on the racetrack can be a ton.
And the word is, it'll be next time around for Tony Stewart to make this green flag pit stop.
Second, 18 car nose.
Let's watch him hustle down. To get down to the 3rd gear, down a second, he gets down to pit road speed, and you'll be in. Watch when he makes a pit stop. There's a lot more to it than you just sitting there taking a drink. He's got to get it in. He's got to hold the brakes, hold the steering wheel straight. When they get done with the right sides, he'll put it in gear to get ready to take off when they finish the left sides.
2, 1.
Gets a drink here. Goes around. I didn't put in gear on the way around.
Big, 42, all the way to 42.
You got to make sure, like I said, you got to keep those wheels straight. There's a lot going on in just those 12 or 13 seconds.
The pit stop for Tony Stewart coming at lap 180. And there you see Juan Pablo Montoya getting good as the run continues. He goes around David Rudiman for 5th. Brad Keselowski, the race leader. But he, like Tony Stewart, going to have to make a green flag pit stop unless the caution comes out rather quickly. Expect him sometime in the next 5 laps. And that would put Kyle Busch back in the race lead. Kyle's been the dominator here tonight, leading some 106 laps. Brad Keselowski second in that category. He has led 38 circuits this evening.
We've been talking about how good Kyle Busch is, getting in, all that. Right now he's behind Keselowski by 1.4 seconds. So it'll be interesting to see if he erases that margin just on the pit stop.
When they coming, Marty?
Well, they're going to come in about 3 laps, and when you don't have radio communication, Adam, you've got to figure out the fuel mileage yourself. So when they were under green, Brad said, I'm going to assume I have to pit about lap 184 based on what you told me this morning. Fortunately, they did get a caution. Paul Wolf said pit about lap 185 or 186. He'll hear that from his spotter, and that's when Brad Keselowski will come down pit road. And yes, he is using the hand signals. Car a little bit too loose getting into the corner right now.
I think it's so cool that Paul Wolf was on top of things this morning to tell Brad Keselowski, here's how many laps you can run on fuel. Little did he know they would be put in his box, but it's great that Brad Keselowski is aware of it, and he was able to calculate it on his own during the caution.
Yeah, and I'm going to add something there, Larry. I think it's cool that Brad Keselowski has enough presence of mind to ride around out here and try to find the scoreboard to see how many laps, because obviously the scoreboard's in a strange position at this racetrack. There's one going into turn 1 and one coming out of turn 4. As he comes down the front stretch, he has the presence of mind to look up and say 182, 183, 184, it's time to pit. Now the only problem that they have is they've worked out their signals. Loose, I put my hand on the door. Push, I put my hand on the A post. We heard him talk about that. That's old school. The difference is you don't know how tight or how loose the car is because you don't hear the inflection or you don't get to verbally communicate. You see him sticking his hand out the window right there to give the crew a signal on what the car is doing.
I think we underestimate just how smart Brad Keselowski is. If you go back to that win at Kansas, just remember everything he did to save fuel when he was driving that race car.
Well, we said Brad would give up the race lead when he pitted. He may give it up on the racetrack because Kyle Busch is good.
He just erased a second there in that last lap.
And here comes Keselowski for the stop. It will come at lap 186.
I see 4 tires. 4 tires. Waiting on gas here. Go on Paul. Not waiting on gas. It's going on the jack here all the way down. All right, 10 away. All the way, all the way, all the way.
Regan Smith making a green flag pit stop as well, and that got close. Regan back outside the top 20 himself. Keselowski right now scored 23rd. Kyle Busch back in front. He's in front of Jimmy Johnson. Back at Kentucky, green flag pit stops underway, and the leader on pit road.
Drink if you got one. Let's drink, guys. 5, 4, 3, 2. All the way, go, 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 go.
So Kyle Busch makes a pit stop from the race lead. That was a scheduled green flag pit stop for him at lap 193. He goes back onto the racetrack in the 11th position, and the new leader is teammate Denny Hamlin. Denny lost an engine here yesterday, started at the back. He has come to the front, and this is a strategy move. When the caution came out, he elected to pit at lap 153. A handful of drivers did, and now things have cycled through in that group at the front, and it's a while before they've got to pit again. Among the group that pitted with Denny, some of the wave around guys like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Ryan Newman, Martin Truex Jr., Jeff Gordon, all now in the top 10. Marty?
Well, this is a big dilemma for Mike Ford, Adam. He knows that he can probably go to lap 207, but do you leave Denny Hamlin out that long, knowing the rest of these guys are on brand new tires and making up time on you? They want to get Denny some track position. That's why they pitted later than everybody else when no one else came down into that caution. Mike's probably going to leave him out for 3 or 4 more laps here, but we can't leave him out for too long. Obviously, the car very fast, so if they do get up front, Adam, they'll be a contender.
Adam, when I look at our top 9 drivers right now, I'm not sure any of them, other than maybe Denny Hamlin, has a car that can win this race. But with that pit stop on lap 153, if we see any of them go to about lap 208 or 209, they may be trying to make it on that one stop and stretching it. Who knows, maybe steal one.
And Larry, to add perspective, we kept talking about these top 8 drivers. Brad Keselowski had the lead, had to make a green flag pit stop. He is 9th, so he is the first driver of that group that is on a different cycle. Kyle Busch right behind him. Then you got Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, and Kurt Busch. Those the only 13 drivers right now that are on the lead lap.
Hey, Larry, but if you're, I understand what you're saying about most of those guys, but if you're the 11, what do you do? I mean, I think the 11 is fast enough right now to win the race, but you know, do you go that route? Or do you go for the fuel mileage?
Yeah, he is absolutely, as Marty just reported, he's the one driver that's kind of in limbo here. I think they're going to come on right now and get on the same agenda as these other drivers, because I think they're giving up so much time with those fresh tires as those guys that just pitted.
Dale Jr., one of those in the top 10. He makes his pit stop here at lap 198, and Bobby Labonte in as well. And now the race leader, Denny Hamlin.
4 tires, let's go. Away. 5, 4, 3. Blown engine in turn 1.
And now we got a caution and a big smoker. Jamie McMurray up in turn 2.
Well, that pretty much throws that possible of making it on one stop out the window, guys, because I think right now no one can make 67 laps on a tank of fuel. So this will put pretty much everybody on even ground.
Man, that thing just exploded. I'm surprised he hasn't bailed out of that thing yet, because you certainly can't breathe in there with all that.
Yeah, it was hard to tell whether, from the angle that we saw, whether he had been in the wall or something. But I think the engine just let go, and he just stopped because he could not see.
Yeah.
See McMurray moving around inside the race car, gloves off. That's a good sign. There goes the helmet. Let's look one more time at what happened.
You see him just coming into turn 1. Oh God.
Yeah, that's big. That's big right there. I can't remember seeing one that blew up that big.
No, that's a Speedway explosion, but it's all white smoke. And when you see white smoke like that, most of the time it's knocked a hole in the piston.
But look inside the car, like you said, he cannot see where he's going. He just jams on the brakes. I mean, jams on the brakes just so he doesn't run into somebody.
Yeah, and it's like it just knocked the pistons out of it, because it's just all white smoke.
An interesting group at the front. David Reagan, the leader.